Hi, and welcome to my very first YouTube video where I'm going to be discussing mental illness, bullying, and suicide in our children and teenagers. So today's video is going to be about mental health, what is mental health, and brain health. And I'm going to give you a quick lowdown on the brain. Consider it Brain 101. My name is Tracy Maxfield. I'm an author, nurse, mental health and stop bullying advocate, educator, and peer specialist. So when we talk about brain health or mental health, I think it's important to remember the two of them go hand in hand. The brain is the most important organ in our body. And in kids, it actually doesn't stop developing until they're in their 20s. So for example, the frontal lobe is the very last part of the brain to develop, and that is fully developed in, let's say, ages 21 to 24 in females, and in males around the age of 24 to 27. So throughout childhood, adolescence, even into young adulthood, the brain is continuing to develop and form. And so you can see how important it is that we maintain good brain health, because anything that we subject our bodies to, our brains to, anything we're exposed to in the environment is going to impact how our brains develop. And so the brain actually comprises of four lobes. So we have the frontal lobe, we have the occipital lobe right at the back, we have the temporal lobes right there, and we have the parietal lobe. And then we have two hemispheres. We have the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. And for people who are aware of how a stroke works, the left hemisphere controls the right side of the body, and the right hemisphere controls the left side of the body. And so our brains control everything in the body. It is not the heart. The brain actually enables the heart to beat. And so without our brains, essentially, we are dead. And so the brain, it controls our thinking, our cognition. It also controls our perception, our abilities to touch, controls our emotions. Those are our feelings. It also controls the physical aspects, and that would be the kidneys, the musculoskeletal system, the circulatory system, endocrine, hormones, immune system, digestive system, reproductive, every part of your body, the brain controls. And so if you think of that, you can understand why maybe if you have a headache, you will also experience nausea or dizziness or vision problems. Similarly, a person that maybe has depression will also have physical side effects. So that would be maybe digestive, extreme joint pain, difficulty walking, things like that. The brain is also responsible for our behaviors, and that's usually in our temporofrontal lobe, which is our risk-taking, determining socially appropriate behaviors. Also controls signaling. And signaling is our danger response, our fight, flight, fright. That is when we encounter something which is anxiety-provoking or stressful, our body immediately takes action and warns us, danger, danger, you need to respond. So if you think these are all the different functions that the brain controls, now I want you to apply these to children and to adolescents. So how can we promote good mental health? Well, we send our kids to school and we start the education system there. However, we also expose them to the news of the world and social media. And they can see some very scary and harrowing images on those sites, but they can also be subjected to completely disrespectful, inappropriate content. They can also be threatened and intimidated, and that's called cyberbullying. This will all have an impact on their brain health, their mental health, and how they perceive the world and how they perceive themselves. And so that's why brain health, we have to look at how we manage our stress response and how we manage our emotions. So everyone nowadays is all no stress, no stress, no stress, can't have stress, stress is no good. Actually, that's completely incorrect. Stress is good. And as a child and as a teenager, you need to be exposed to stresses because it enables you to learn and develop, not only as a person, but it enables you to develop coping skills and strategies that will help you deal with the next stressful event. If we completely nullify that stress response in a kid, then they will never know as they grow older how to respond to stresses. So, for example, there are three M's, I call them, in mental health. We have mental distress, we have mental disorder, and we have mental illness. And we actually have all three of them at one time. For example, I have depression. That's my mental illness. I may be dealing with some stressful, sad news, maybe a death of a family member, and I'm grieving with that. That's a mental disorder. I also may have an exam coming up, and so I have the anxiety related to that. That's mental distress. Just because you have mental distress or a mental disorder does not automatically mean you will go on to develop a mental illness, not if you're able to manage your mental distress and any mental disorders you have. So mental distress is I'm trying out for the cheerleading squad or the football team, or I have an exam. Perfectly normal. You'll have the physical effects. So that is the stomach problems, the butterflies in the stomach, the feeling queasy, feeling very stressed, anxious. That's a normal stress response. And how you can help your kids identify and work through it is to assure them that it'll be okay, this is normal, this is how the body acts. It shows they have good brain health. And so maybe strategies like deep breathing exercises, asking them, okay, so maybe if you don't meet the cheerleading squad, if you don't get in, what is the worst that can happen? How do you feel? Let's talk about that. What can you do the next time? And so it's, again, giving them information to think of, okay, is this the worst thing that could happen to me? How can I deal with this? Okay, I failed the exam. Okay, don't penalize them. Let's look at it. Okay, did you not study that? Were you too tired? What was going on? It's allowing them to explore their feelings and determining what could have been the trigger why they were so anxious or stressed. So stress is three parts, right? We have the good stress, which is actually, the exam, it passes, right? It's not a daily ongoing issue. Then we have the bad stress, and that could be the death of a parent or the death of a grandparent or the death of a dog. And that actually lines up more into a mental disorder, because then you may actually develop a low-grade depression, or you may just have difficulty coping and understanding your emotions, and you may need some professional help like counseling and stress management techniques. And then we have the toxic stress, and the toxic stress is no good. Toxic stress is if you live in an abusive household and you're subjected to the abuse and the threats daily. It is if you're being bullied constantly. It's if you're in the workplace and you're undergoing workplace bullying. That is a toxic stress environment. And what that does is it puts the body into overload and it triggers your signaling, and you go into fight, fright, fight. except the needle gets stuck. Think of a record player, and the needle gets stuck, and you're constantly in fright, flight, fright mode, and the body's responding to that. And so with that, you start getting all the physical complaints. But because of the impact, it also affects other areas of the brain. So you may not be sleeping well, and you may not be able to think things through clearly because you're just so overwhelmed. And then your emotions, you may feel depressed, you may feel angry, you may feel tearful. And so you can see how everything is interrelated. And so the way that we can promote good mental health or good brain health is to look at each situation that comes along, address the emotion that's identified with it, and look for strategies to deal with the emotion. Okay, I have an exam, I'm feeling really anxious, I have an upset stomach. Okay, let's maybe just have a glass of milk, a slice of toast to settle your stomach. Let's do some deep breathing exercises. Let's do some redirections. So after the exam's over, let's think of one good thing that we can do. Hey, let's go out to the park and play ball or something. Just think of things like that, because it enables them to shift gear from the focus of the exam and the stress to other things. And as we know, all kids like to be in control and like to start problem solving. Now, obviously, I can't go into huge details in a very short video, but there will be more information in the blog that will accompany this video, and that can be found on my website, www.tracymansfield.com. And please click the button below the screen to subscribe to my YouTube videos. In the next video, I'm actually going to be discussing why there is such an increase in mental illness in our kids, and that's related to ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and the environment. So thank you for tuning in.